Good morning, everyone. My name is KATHLYN ERICKA Escarate, and my topic is about writing for speaking or speech writing. So at the end of the lesson, the students are expected to identify the 4 critical phases of speech planning, value the importance of each planning phase for a clear, organized speech, and create an effective speech for presentation. So writing and speaking are both primarily modes of a verbal communication. They share common principles of language, organization, and clarity. So both of these skills are being put into practice in speech writing. So what is speech writing? Speech writing is a process of creating a clear and organized script for a spoken presentation or the speech. This is a type of writing that is prepared meticulously as it involves planning the content, choosing the right tone, and structuring the speech so the message is communicated clearly to the audience. So we can find speech writing across a wide range of personal, professional, and in public contexts such in politics and government, where speech is used in campaign speeches during election and in the State of the Union address. So in academic contexts, we have 4 types of speech writing. These are the informative speech, persuasive speech, entertaining speech, and motivational speech. For informative speech, the goal is to provide information that is complete and clear so the audience can understand the message. So the focus here is facts, data, and explanations. While in persuasive speech, the aim is to convince the audience to support a particular stance or to take an action. So it is a type of speech that often employs persuasive techniques and emotional appeals. So we can use persuasive speech for topics such as climate change, social injustice, and political issues where we urge the audience or the listener to support a particular stance or for them to take an action. The third one is entertaining speech. So entertaining speech, the aim here is to amuse or entertain the audience. This includes humor, funny anecdotes, and storytelling. The last one is motivational speech. Motivational speech aims is to move or uplift the audience, and it includes personal stories, motivational quotes, and anecdotes as well. So it is a type of speech typically used during graduation in commencement speeches. So there are 4 phases of planning that must be completed when we are writing a content for our speech. And these are, for phase 1, we have selecting a topic, defining the purpose, and formulating a central idea. In phase 2, we have audience analysis. Phase 3 is where we research and we gather all our resources. And phase 4, the last phase, is structuring the framework. So phase 1, select a topic. So the best common way for a speaker to select a topic is to observe what is happening around them, at their school, in their local government, or around the world. So the best way to do that is to ask ourselves a few questions, such as what important events are occurring locally, nationally, or internationally? What do I care about the most? Is there someone or something I can advocate for? What makes me angry or happy? What beliefs, attitudes do I want to share? Or is there information that the audience needed to know? So we can also ask ourselves different questions, but these questions should at least lead you to a few topical choices. So the most important thing that these questions do is for us to locate topics that is within the pre-existing sphere of knowledge and interest. So topics should be ideas that is interest the speaker or a part of their daily lives already. Why? Because in order for the topic to be effective, the speaker needs to have some credibility or connection to the topic. So after you are done selecting a topic, you can now start defining the purpose of your speech. So in defining the purpose, we have two purposes for speech writing. We have the general and the specific. So in the general purpose, the most speeches fall into four categories. It is to inform, to persuade, to entertain, and to motivate. So the first step of defining the general purpose of our speech is to think about which category best describes the overall goal of our speech. So you have to ask yourself, what do you want your audience to think, feel, or do as a consequence of hearing you speak? So after you already define the general purpose, we can now start to move in the direction of the specific purpose of our speech. So the specific purpose starts with one of those broad goals, then further informs the listener about the what, where, when, why, and how of the speech. So in short, the specific purpose is the combination of the general purpose and the topic, and this two helps the speaker to focus in on what can be achieved by the end of our speech. So the last one for phase 1 is to formulate a central idea. So while we not actually say our specific purpose in the speech, you have to clearly state your focus and main points. So the statement that reveal your main points are commonly known as the central idea. So just as you would create this statement for an essay or a research paper, the central idea helps focus your presentation by defining your topic, your purpose, direction, and the point of view of your speech. So here is the example for our phase 1. So let's say that your topic is about cleaning computer keyboard. And you decided that the overall goal of your speech is to inform. So that would be in the general purpose. So your specific purpose is to inform and demonstrate to my audience the correct method for cleaning a computer keyboard. So that is your specific purpose. Then your central idea would be your computer keyboard needs regular cleaning to function well. You can achieve that in 3 easy steps, and the central idea should be included in the introduction of your speech. So after phase 1, we can now proceed to phase 2, which is the audience analysis. So the heart of any speech is the audience. And while audience analysis does not guarantee against error in judgment, it can help us to make good choices about the topic, language of style in presentation, and other aspects of the speech. So the more we know about our audience, the best we can serve their interests and needs. So in phase 2, we have to analyze our audience prior to our speech. So we can find common ground with the audience, and that would allow us to align our message with what the audience already knows or believes. So the audience analysis are broken down into 3 key elements. We have the demographic information, the psychological information, and situational information. So the demographic information, these are information about the characteristics of people in your audience, such as age, gender, economic status, educational background, and even occupation. So this information can help us to know on what to avoid so as not alienate our audience, and what to do to engage them on a deeper level. So in psychological information, we analyze the audience attitudes, beliefs, values, knowledge, and interests. So by analyzing this, by analyzing the psychological information, it can reveal pre-existing notions or opinions that limit your audience frame of reference. So by knowing such notion ahead of time, you can address them in your speech. So audience knowledge of a topic can vary widely on any given occasion. Therefore, we should find out what our audience already knows about the topic to ensure that our message is still relevant and effectively received. So the last is situational information. So here, it focuses on characteristics related to the specific speaking situation. So this is the physical environment, such as the audience size, the occasion, and the motivation of attendance of your audience. So by understanding the audience size and the occasion, it can help us adjust our speech and delivery to the one that is appropriate to the contextual norms. So after we are done analyzing our audience, we can now move on to the phase 3, where we have to research and gather all our resources. So conduct any necessary research related to our speech. This is where we pick up the information, connect ideas, and arrive at insights that make our talk fresh. So the research for speech writing involves thoroughly understanding our topic, purpose, audience, and then structuring the content of our speech for strong introduction, clear main points, and a compelling conclusion. So as you can guess, the phase 3 comprises all the phase of the speech planning, from phase 1 to phase 4. Effective research also includes gathering credible data, stories, expert opinions, and then organizing the ideas logically and writing it in a conversational style that is concise and engaging. So in phase 3, our goal here is to build our credibility, engage our listeners, and achieve the speech objective, whether it is to inform, persuade, entertain, or to motivate. So after we are done gathering all our data, our sources, we can now proceed to the last part of our phase, which is to structure the framework. So the structure in the framework of our speech is divided into 3 parts: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So let's start with the first part: write a compelling introduction. So the introduction of the speech establishes the first and crucial contact between the speaker and the audience. So for most classroom speeches, the introduction should last less than 1 minute, and it should accomplish 3 things: to grab your audience attention, to establish your goodwill and credibility, and to give your audience a preview. So speakers must have an attention grabber to interest the audience, and some good ways to grab their attention includes using quotation, telling a story, posing questions, using humor, using starting facts or statistics, providing an illustration or anecdotes, and referencing historical or recent events. So those you can use those to grab your audience attention. Also, in grabbing your audience attention, the main claim or idea should be stated very clearly as well. Why? Because this gives your audience a sense of purpose of the speech. Speakers need to orient the audience and make connections between what they already know about the topic. So this would help you accomplish the second part of writing a compelling introduction, which is to establish your credibility as a speaker. So many people believe that the most important part of persuasion was the character the speaker exhibited in front of the audience. The audience needs to see the speaker as someone to listen to attentively and sympathetically. So making eye contact with the audience and displaying confidence in voice and body are the two important ways to establish your credibility as a speaker. In addition, if you express ideas that are original and intelligent, you will show what we call intellectual character. So how this will help you, or how this would help you to establish your credibility? Well, audience pay attention to habits of thoughts that are interesting, original, and worth listening to. So the last one in writing a compelling introduction is to give your audience preview. So mentioning the main points to be covered in the body prepares the audience to listen for them. So remember that in speech, repetition is important aspect. Your audience sometimes tune out on parts, perhaps to think about the previous parts of your speech or for some other reasons. So giving them the preview, mentioning the main points again and again, help the audience focus on the key points that you want them to remember. So the preview should end with a transition, a brief phrase or pause to signal to the audience, and then the speech is moving out of the introduction and into the body. Structuring the body of our speech. So the body is the largest part of our speech. This is where you will use credible sources to provide relevant information, examples, and arguments to support the central idea of your speech. So, in the body, the fewer the main points, the better. For short classroom speeches, that is only under 10 minutes. So if you have too many main points, your audience will have trouble following and remembering your speech. So focusing on 3 main points and providing effective supporting points for each main point make your speech more memorable. And another thing is, flow is also important, especially in the body of the speech, because if listeners can follow your narrative, they won't grasp or internalize the content. So in structuring the body of speech, we should provide relevant information. Then the fewer main points, the better. Should be only the maximum is 3 main points, and the flow of the speech is important. We have to use mode of organization, transitional devices, and rhetorical devices for structuring the body. And then after that, the last part of structuring the framework is to close it with impact. So conclusion should be somewhat shorter than the introduction. The conclusion wraps up the presentation by providing summary of what the audience was supposed to have learned or to have persuaded to do during the presentation. And because the conclusion is the last opportunity to move your listeners, it should end strongly with an impact statement. So for a persuasive speech, a strong ending is a call to action, where you tell the audience that they should do what they should do to the information they have learned. So that summarizes the last phase of speech planning. From writing a compelling introduction, structuring your body, and close it with an intro. So after you completed the structure, you can now write your draft, then revise and polish your structure into your final speech. So I also have here the speech writing outline that might help you in writing your speech. So you have to write your title, then the specific purpose of your speech, the central idea, and then into the introduction, which should have attention grabber, relate to the audience, and establishing your credibility. Then the central idea, then transition from introduction to the body. The body, you have the first main point and then the sub point. If you want further elaboration, then supporting point for the sub point, and so on. Then the second main point, then type your supporting point again or the sub point until the third point, and then conclusion. That includes signaling you are going to conclusion, restating your central idea and summarizing main points, and end the speech memorably. And these are my references for this report. And that's all. Thank you.